Many countries today, both developed and developing countries, face a monumental issue, an issue of the unsafe use of chemicals and waste in industry. This is because countries put the expansion of the economy in front of the safe use of chemicals and waste in industry. This is taking a huge toll on the people and citizens of said countries. The unsafe use of chemicals affects enormous amounts of people and has long-lasting impacts on the environment. So to understand the issue of industrial waste, we must know the following key terms. Number 1, industrial waste, any waste arising from commercial, industrial, or trade activities. Waste, which is matter that is no longer required by the person who produced it. Waste management, which is identifying and describing the waste, keeping the waste safely, and transferring it to the right person. Hazardous waste, which is waste that is dangerous or potentially harmful to our health or the environment. Hazardous wastes can be liquids, solids, gases, or sludges. A persistent organic pollutant, which is compounds that are considered chemical. Now, a major incident that occurred due to industrial negligence was the Union Carbide Bhopal disaster, which is considered the world's worst industrial disaster. In 1984, methylisocyanate gas was released in a Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, India. Over 500,000 people were exposed and affected by this, exposing them to radiation, disabling future generation, directly disabling the exposed, and killing over 5,200 people. However, a step in the right direction was the BASEL Convention, which tried to control the transboundary movement of hazardous waste and their disposal. This was open for signature in the UN on March 22, 1989. And another very major historical event was the UNCED, or the United Nations Conference on Environmental Development, where 172 countries participated along with many NGOs. This was a conference which worked to address many key issues relating to mainly causes of pollution, which was substantially, of course, credited to industry. This conference produced 6 frameworks and treaties. The issue today: food chains are affected. The industrial waste goes into rivers and then goes into the digestive system of fish. Industrial waste dumped on land gets eaten by stray dogs and cows, killing many and disrupting the natural food chain. Water sources are polluted, which, by polluting irrigation systems, pollutes food. Also, polluted drinking water sources, for example by hazardous landfills, which seep chemicals into the ground and pollute groundwater, infect many people with waterborne diseases. Acid rain is also caused from the release of sulfur from factories, which then ruin crops. Air is also polluted from multiple emissions from corporate factories, causing respiratory problems and disrupting the day-to-day lives of all citizens. Here's a fact: more than 50% of the world's pollution can be traced back to an industry of some kind. Some key organizations that are working very hard to help this issue are the UNEP, or the United Nations Environmental Program, which promotes chemical safety by providing policy advice, technical guidance, and capacity building to developing countries and those with economies in transition. And the UNIDO, or the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, which works specifically with chemicals and waste, ecosystem management, environmental governance, and resource efficiency. Their aim is to, quote, promote chemical safety and provide countries with access to information on toxic chemicals. Some important policy frameworks are the SAICM, or the Strategic Approach to International Chemicals Management, which is the UN policy framework to promote chemical safety around the world. And REACH, registration, evaluation, authorization, and restriction of chemicals. This is a European legislative framework aiming to protect human and environmental health from the risks posed by chemical waste. Requiring that companies release quarterly reports of where their waste is going, how it was treated, what waste it was, how much waste it was, the process used to treat the waste, the number of people that were employed in order to effectively sort, manage, and dispose of this waste, and how much time was devoted to it. Not just UN organizations, but governments of respected countries need to prioritize this problem, and begin to assign people that will effectively work to abolish illegal corporate waste dumping. Cooperation and aid by developed countries to developing countries is very important to help this issue. These developed countries have a significant amount of experience with this situation, and the cooperation between developed countries and developing countries would surely minimize this issue to a small amount. We must also educate the public, beginning with the youth, on this matter. This is because chemicals in industry is the biggest issue at hand which concerns our future. And by preparing the youth to face this issue, we will be able to solve the problem more productively. Next, corruption needs to be addressed strictly. Committees need to be established that limit corruption, as the biggest obstacle that obstructs environmental success in both LADCs and developed countries is corruption in environmental agencies. Lastly, guidelines need to be formed by central and state governments, which state that substances need to be tested extensively before they can be put into industrial use. Thank you for watching.